Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's project, we're going to install some outside accent lighting, and the lighting is going to go from the ground up towards the top of the house itself. Now, the way we're going to do this is the right way we're going to do it. We're not going to just lay the wires in here and cover them up a little bit. We're going to pull this stone back out of the way. We're going to pull the weed matting out. We'll put our weed mat back over it, and then we're going to actually put the stone back over the top of that, and then our lights will be mounted right in here. So that way it looks like a very professional job, and it's not going to be a mess with wires laying all over the place. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here with a pair of gloves, a rake, and something to kneel on, and we're going to pull the stone back so we can gain about a foot away from the foundation, so we have an area to actually trench the wires and stick them into the ground. All right, so let me pull this back with the rake, and then we'll continue with that. Just a little bit of raking, and then we'll So now that we have all of these stones pulled back and out of the way, we made sure we have a nice clean area. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come underneath that weed mat. We're going to pull the weed mat back in preparation of installing the wires underneath all of this. All right, so you can see we cleaned it all the way back as far as we need to. We're going to keep it about a foot, maybe a foot and a half away from the house, but that's about it. We're going to go over on the other side now, and we're going to continue pulling the stone back on the other side of the property too. So now we have a nice clean area on that side. Again, about a foot and a half away from the house, so we can put the lights in there, and we can actually install the lights themselves and the wiring. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up underneath here. We're going to take the weed mat. We're not going to take it out. We're just going to pull the weed mat back out of the way so that we have someplace to lay our wiring in. And of course the wiring is going to be under the weed mat, but the lights themselves are going to be going through the weed mat. So we'll pull everything back. Whatever stones or whatever is in the way there, you probably want to get them out of there at this point, which is what we did. So now we'll go around to the other side of the house, and we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. Pull all the weed matting back to expose the dirt below. Now, if your personal preference, if you wanted to put the wiring down into the dirt, you could do that, but in this particular case here, it's going to be under the weed mat, so that's where we're going to leave the wiring. It's laying down underneath there before we cover it all back up again, of course. So we have both sides nice and clean. We have it in preparation of installing our new wiring and light into the ground itself. We have already decided where we're going to put the transformer, and it's going to be down on the far side of the property. We're going to actually put an outlet in there to accommodate the new controller, and to also have a light switch, or I should say have an outlet out there as well. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab the wiring, and they're going to roughly lay the wiring down where we want to have it located. We're going to put the lights in. We're going to measure away from the house, from the foundation. Make sure that the lights are an even distance away from the foundation so that it doesn't really look like they're out of place. We're going to run the wire temporarily to our other lights on the opposite side of the house in this area here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to lay our lights in on this side over here. We're going to lay the wiring down as well. And once we determine the exact location of where the lights are going to go, we'll put these lights in place, and then we'll continue, and we're going to come underneath the walkway now, and we have to get that wire from underneath the one side of the walkway to the other side of the walkway. And the way that I've determined that we're going to do that is we actually dug out under the walkway on the left and the right of the walkway. We dug out a long section of lawn, and we're going to come underneath here, and we're going to hammer in a pipe underneath the bottom. And that'll be the easiest way to get that underneath the walkway itself. We take a piece of metal piping, we put it underneath in the dirt there, as close to the concrete as possible, and then we just hammer it through underneath there until it comes out the other side and nice and clean. Then we'll pull that pipe out. We'll put the plastic tubing in that we're going to use, and once that's in there, the plastic tubing, then we can slide the wire through the new pipe. But as you can see, this pipe here gets a little bit beat up on the end just from hammering on it to get it to go through underneath the walkway. So it's nice and it looks good now. It's underneath. Let's pull it out, and then we'll get our new pipe, which is made of plastic, as I said, and we're going to put that in there, and we'll run the wires through it. All right, so now we'll grab our wires from in front of the house. We'll slide them through that new section of piping out underneath the walkway, and then we'll continue it over to the other side of the property where we have the lights are going to be against that portion of the house. So temporarily we're going to lay the wire on the grass right now. We'll come back to that momentarily, and then we'll put those wires in the ground so that you won't even see where they're going to be located anymore. But this is where it's going to run through, and then we'll cover it up with the weed matting and also with the stone. Now we laid the other lights down in there. We laid the weed mat over the top of it, and we put the light under it and punctured into it, as you can see. The next thing we'll need to do is to go into the house and find a power supply so that we could bring it outside to hook up the transformer or the light timer for the lights themselves. And the way we did that is we determined where we wanted to mount the controller on the outside, and then we came inside to see if we had an outlet in that location, which we did. We removed that outlet, and then once we remove the outlet, we are going to drill through the outside wall so we can bring the wiring outside and connect it up. And in here we will reconnect our lights or our outlet that was previously there, and we'll put that outlet back on the wall, and you'll never be able to tell that it was ever given the power to the outside controller. Next we'll go outside, and we're going to continue outside. We're going to come out here and we're going to install a outlet on the top, on the outside of the house itself. It's going to be a double outlet. One of them will actually feed power to the controller, and the other one will be just an outlet for future use for whatever I needed to use it outside the house for. All right, and here's an example of the controller that I was actually going to mount up. It's made by Hampton Bay, and it attaches right to the side of the house just like that. We then mount the electric eye or the solar sensor so that when it gets dark it goes on from dusk to dawn. But that's what the one I'm going to be using now. Next we lay our wiring down underneath the weed mat. We have our lights in the position we wanted them to. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here. We're going to backfill all of the rock that we pulled out to cover up the weed matting and to secure the wiring and everything in place. We have everything else pulled back now. You can see that the rock is back on top of it and the weed matting is under it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect this wire here. We're going to put that wiring, I should say, underneath the rocks, and then we're going to come up to the grassy area. We're going to take our shovel, and what you do is you put the shovel into the ground, you step on the shovel, push it down approximately 3 inches or so, 3-4 inches, push down on it, pull it, and rock the shovel back and forth to open up a groove in the grass, and then we're going to feed the wiring down into it, push the wiring down out of the way, and you'll never even see where the wiring was connected to. Now here we have the controller connected up, and you can see all the rock is pulled back just the way it's supposed to be on both sides, on the left side and the right side of the entry door. Everything is good. Now of course at night, once you have the lights on, the lights themselves will be adjustable. You can turn them up, down, or left or right, whatever you need to. Now you can see where we put that wire in the ground. There is a slight little cut in the grass, but it's going to fill right in, and you'll never even know it was there. Once we get a couple of rainstorms or whatever, that wiring will just fill right back in. And you can see that the wiring is now under the stone. You can't see anything. It's like it was never even there before. And the stone is pulled back on it. And that's it. You can see everything is in place where it belongs. And as I said, we can adjust the lights, if they're not pointing at the right angle, you can just go underneath there and adjust them. I will point this out to you if you choose. These lights are adjustable. They do change color if you decide to have them with different colors. I don't want the different colors. I'm just going to have it as just an illumination in the front of the house itself. And the next thing to do is to come over here, and we're going to set the correct time on the controller itself. And as you can see, you can adjust it to have it go on at dusk and turn off when the sun comes up again, or you can pre-program it to whatever time you choose. That's personal preference, entirely up to you. We mounted our sensor right on the side next to the control unit itself. The sensor will tell you or tell the controller when it's light out or dark out and needing to turn the lights on. So let's test it. Let's hold our finger over the cell and make sure that the lights turn on. And they turn on just the way they are supposed to. Now, I will tell you this, when you hold your finger on that cell, it will take a couple of seconds before that light comes on, and the other way around too. When you take your finger off that light, it'll also take a little while before it adjusts and turns the lights back off. So don't be alarmed if it takes you a little bit of time to get the lights to turn off and on when you remove your finger from the sensor.